Up to now, it had been left to me to clean the site up after every stage of the project, ready for the next one, and this time was no exception. And there was plenty of rubbish left inside the house to be got rid of. The roofers had left behind an awful mess, and there was also stuff left after the interior guys, let's call them the plasterboard workers, had started on the ceilings and the electrician on the house wiring. But I'd had a few days to clean everything up, and today the morning began with a new delivery. This time it was of the plasterboard and other materials that will be needed to fit out the interior of the house, metal for the framework for the internal partitions, and plasterboard and insulation that will be needed for the walls, internal partitions and ceilings. After the truck had left, the plasterboard workers arrived, and once they'd moved the materials that they'd need indoors, they immediately began work on the ceilings and walls. I was surprised at how quickly work progressed. It seemed like no time at all before all of the ceilings were up. All of the wiring that the electrician had installed in the roof space had been hidden, and he would have to come back later to drill the ceiling for all of the lighting fittings and to fit the wall sockets and switches. But before then it was the job of the plasterboard workers to put into place all of the internal partitions and the internal surfaces of the external walls. And while they were doing that, it was they who had to run the cables for all of the electrical wall sockets and drill the wall and partition surfaces to take them. I'd already arranged with them to install the internal doors that I'd previously purchased from Leroy Merlin, and I moved them into the house over the weekend in readiness. While I was doing that, I took the opportunity to see how things were going, and found that as well as marking out the floor for all of the internal partitions, they'd also marked where the insulation and plasterboard would be fixed to the internal surfaces of the external walls. In fact, they'd already started mounting the metal supports on the walls. It was pretty obvious that these two workmen wanted to get the job done as quickly as possible, and had no intention of hanging around unnecessarily. They'd mentioned to me that they'd been told there had been project delays, and I suspected they probably had other projects to go to, so my guess was that things would probably move very quickly during the coming week.